Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up for you here. Ripple XRP buyback. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, $3.79 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's up 1.7 in the last 24. Bitcoin now 108,400 plus. Ethereum 3,900 plus. XRP still at number 5 spot is 241. Now we're up 2.2 on the 24, and we're up 0.1 on the 7-day here. Let's look at the range of price very quickly. Ranging between 232 and 241, we will keep an eye on this. But I think we all know we need the government shutdown to end. We need U.S. and China to come to a trade agreement just as starters, right? And then we need to get, when the government does come back from the shutdown, we need to get the Market Clarity Act passed and so on and so on. But let's get going on the news because there's a lot of great stuff that's super bullish. You're going to love hearing about it. One is this right here from Chad Steingreiber reminding all of us this could be the week we find out if the SEC, despite the government shutdown, will press the approval button. Quite possible they don't, but you know what? Let's stay positive and hope that they do. XRP ETFs are ready to go, so it would just depend on the SEC deciding whether they could do this during a shutdown or not. Let's hope that they do. It could be great for everybody involved and the market itself. I love it just because it helps create deeper, more options to the market in XRP. Just like this. Look at this is what's going on. Now, we broke this when it first came out, but we're still talking about this because this is so very important. And I want to go over a few other different angles and aspects of this recent acquisition by Ripple. It's GTreasury, and GTreasury is over 40 years of experience in Treasury, and they serve the Forbes 500 basically, and it is a multi-trillion dollar corporate Treasury market, and they're currently processing 12.5 trillion in payments. And Brad Garlinghouse has told us that the market itself is 120 trillion deep. So this is massive. And it seems like a bargain at $1 billion for GTreasury, doesn't it? You know, the other thing about this is we said this yesterday and mentioned it, and I just want to say it again. You know, when you look at the different acquisitions, whether it's Hidden Road, Rail Financial, GTreasury, it seems to me that Ripple has brilliantly found the place where they can make an acquisition, partnership, or what have you, and then really gain access to the larger side of traditional finance. And that is the goal, is how seamlessly can you integrate digital assets like XRP into the traditional financial system. That's what I'm here for. This is evidence that that's exactly what Ripple is doing. And to go into it just a little more and take the conversation where I really want to cover today, which is basically Ripple has just moved 500 million XRP in an unusual transfer ahead of Treasury plans. Now, this is very interesting right here. Ripple moves 500 million to new XRP to new account as it plans a $1 billion treasury firm to manage its XRP holdings. Now, let me just go into this a little bit here. Ripple's transferred the 500 million to a new account and is neither escrowed nor protected by multi-signature settings. The move was noted by XRP ledger validator Vet. Shout out to Vet, who described it as unusual given the account type. This transfer comes as Ripple plans to raise up to $1 billion for a proposed XRP treasury firm. This is amazing to me because it's basically a buyback is the way I'm understanding this. And that tells me how much value Ripple sees in the asset. And when you look at the recent acquisitions that we've seen, obviously they're tapping into traditional finance, which will make XRP very much in demand if everything goes the way it's planned, it seems. So looking at this, here's why Ripple is buying the 1 billion in XRP instead of just using the escrow of XRP. Now this gets into why I ever made my first video on YouTube, which was about escrow. And I've always believed that the escrow was important. Let's not forget The definition of escrow itself means a third party holding funds for a third party in a separate account. So there it is, right? So it's been right in front of us the whole time. And I believe that this is where it starts to come to light as we get the market infrastructure bill and all of this. So looking here, as we went over yesterday, and I just for a second, just want to touch on this and level set for anyone who hasn't seen the video or the news. Not everybody's up on the market every second. So Neek's Bucks, who, by the way, has attacked me for years for this theory and is now waking up to it. I congratulate you. Welcome to the party. These are several reasons Ripple would buy new XRP with new capital for a treasury. Yet many ask, why not just move all from the escrow? A purely speculative factor. Maybe the pre-allocation theory is correct, and Ripple has less XRP in escrow than the public actually thinks. So this is where I've been. This, I believe, is actually evidence that has even more credence. Don't forget, R3 had a $5 billion pre-allocated option contract for XRP. Now that they went to court and had problems with their partnership, which is understandable, but nonetheless, that is proof that it existed, right? And I believed it before that was even actual public news, but that validated it for me. Now, we get to a place now where Ripple is now, in fact, creating a treasury to do exactly that. And it speaks even more to the fact that a lot of that XRP and escrow could be earmarked in pre-allocated option contracts to other large financial firms, traditional finance, or even central banks and governments around the world. We don't know how deep this is, but nonetheless, Patrick Bet-David, who has talked about Ripple and a possible SWIFT combination before, is now talking again about it. And he had his guest, Anthony Pompliano, on the show. And I'm not sure if he's aware that Anthony's not a fan of Ripple or XRP, but he says, I wouldn't go that far, saying that Patrick Bet-David basically saying that, what if they were to use it?
Creating technology and buying technology. Good for them. So you're optimistic because you hear some people talk about Ripple could replace Swift. Possibility of that. Of course, the likelihood of that happening is less than 5%.
He says, I wouldn't go that far. But we know Brad Garlinghouse himself has said at an Apex event that in 5 years, he could see 14% of payment flows on the XRP ledger through SWIFT. And that doesn't mean that it's guaranteed, but he's optimistic, right? So I think there is a way forward. We know about the partnership with Ripple and Thunes. We know about the partnership with so many other third parties that put them in an indirect connection to SWIFT. The list is pretty long. So when you look at this, it's really getting to a place where you say, wow, well, what if they do find a way forward? Like number one, the recent announcement of acquiring GTreasury, right? Acquiring GTreasury absolutely puts a compatibility between SWIFT and Ripple. This is remarkable to me because no longer is it, well, we'll have to find out. Well, Ripple bought GTreasury. GTreasury is connected to SWIFT. So for me, it's like almost like check and then checkmate is what I'm kind of seeing here. So this is super exciting to me, and it would really speak to why you would see Ripple want to create a digital asset treasury and then start accumulating XRP for it. This is Ripple doing a buyback. And listen, this is not breaking news. Ripple has said years and years in running in their quarterly reports that they often will buy back XRP at times. That's and we know that they have a release every month. So, where else do you see this? You see this with the same way that oil is controlled, right? Oil is produced, and obviously there's already a finite amount of XRP, but oil is produced, and based on that production, they decide whether they need to release reserves of oil to make the market more liquid and bring the prices down, or to cut back the production to make the prices come up a little. So, this is really what we're talking about here is a price control mechanism being put in place. That's what I see happening. And I couldn't be more excited because I believe that this is exactly the way forward. The way forward is to really have the kind of controls where you're not controlling the price like, oh, I want it to be $8 today and $9 tomorrow. That's not how I see it. What I see it is that there will be an open market free float on price, but they can keep it from spiking and becoming too volatile the same way they do oil. Right? The United States government has reserves for oil and other minerals and golds and metals and things of that nature. So this is not uncommon. This is not unheard of. What's unheard of about this is that this is involving a digital asset that is designed to work as a complement, as a bridge currency inside the financial system. What I find absolutely astounding to watch this is that the world's financial system is not going to stop while it is being integrated. And that is like super incredible. I mean, that's like, that's like it's like a heart doctor, right? I mean, the patient stays alive while you work on them. It's pretty remarkable what I believe we're about to see unfold here. Anders goes forward and says, I asked Grok if Swift and Ripple could work together. And the answer is just simply, yeah, yeah, they could. Swift handles messaging, Ripple provides settlement, XRP bridges currencies, reducing delays, pre-funding. GTreasury feeds Swift data. Ripple gains front end layer for liquidity management and XRP and real USD, reduces cost versus pure Swift transactions, which I can already attest to as someone who used Swift when I was a global importer. So former Swift executive, XRP moves as currency on Swift, two-way comms, communications via databases, frenemies, dynamic, evolve into coexistence. That's what I think we could see happen here. And I believe that we could see this happen. Now, when? Who knows? But this is where I want to leave it pretty much before we look at a chart here. While we wait for XRP ETF approvals, which could come this week, but we'll see if the government shutdown affects it or not. But we have the purchase of Hidden Road. We have the purchase of Rail Financial. We have the recent announcement and purchase of GTreasury for $1 billion. Ripple Bank charter is what we're waiting on now. And that could be as soon as the end of the month if the government shutdown doesn't affect that, as well as the Fed master account. Now we get the news of a digital asset treasury for XRP. Why would that be? Well, one is, and at least at my house, and I'm not trying to sell a used car. Everybody's welcome to believe or do what they wish. But the truth of the matter is that it seems to me that this is the perfect time to begin to put a treasury together, because I do believe a good portion of the XRP escrow is earmarked for actual large financial players, whether it be central governments or otherwise around the world. Because I've always believed that XRP is a bridge currency. And I've always believed that money isn't money unless everyone in the world agrees that it's money. Ray Charles could see where this is going. That's where I got it. And here's the chart to look at right here. If you're scared about the price dropping, just take a look at the macro. Every once in a while, you just have to zoom out and then you have to make a decision for yourself. And everybody's situation is a little bit different. So what you have to do or what I have to do or someone else has to do shouldn't have any bearing on what you do as an individual, because you know best what's right for your life. And I tell you, for me at my house, I am super excited by the look of this chart and where we could potentially be going. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. I'll catch all of you on the next one.